Dr. Eric Ezechieli, take the stage.
Grazie Riccardo. Ok, buonasera a tutti e grazie per essere qui questa sera.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. First of all, I would like to position ourselves in space. This is planet Earth, it's the only one we have, and until the opening up of the space frontier, we don't have another place to live. And what we always forget is that this is a system exactly as a spaceship, which is closed for matter and open for energy. Whatever we do it onto ourselves. And as Bucky Fuller suggested more than 50 years ago, we have to think and behave exactly as astronauts. Secondly, I would like to think about time horizons. So, many of you here have children. I have 2 kids, these ones in the picture. And I ask you, try to think in what year your children or the babies born in 2012 will be your age today. So, in my case, I jump very quickly to 2044 and 2048, so that time horizons of 50 years doesn't look so far in the future anymore. And I take an example from Marshall Brain. He says, if you asked in 1898, there was probably, or for sure, nobody on planet Earth who could even conceive anything like that. Actually, just 50 years later, B-52 was flying in 1948. And so, when you think about the next 50 years, how will the future look like? Well, it's really impossible to imagine, but it will be radically different from today. And most of all, what we can be sure about is that that future is or will be the exact direct consequence of the choices we make today. So, we have to make choices now. And when I look around and I think about the paradigms based on which we make choices today and we behave today, I realize that we are still thinking that the Earth capacity is infinite and we are still growing our demand for resources as if this could happen, this could continue to the infinite. We think and behave as if we were moving in a tunnel and as time goes by, pretty much business as usual. We don't need to change much. But actually, we need to really shift our perspective because we are living in exponential times, and exponentials are tricky because they leave us completely astonished because things happen very, very rapidly, much more quickly than we could imagine. And when I was thinking, what could be an example, a metaphor to represent this kind of dynamics, I thought about popcorns. Well, popcorns are not really exponential, but gives you the idea. If you try to cook them, you will realize that for 95% of the time pretty much nothing happens, and then in the very last 5% of the time everything happens and all the corns pop and the pot gets filled up very quickly. And this kind of dynamic is what we find in other fields as well. Well, another example of this kind of explosion is not really an exponential once again, but if you think that it took us about 3.5 billion years to achieve the first billion people in 1904, and then just 123 years to add the second billion, which we reached in 1927, and then faster and faster until 2011, when we reached the 7th billion in just 12 years. And we see this line representing this kind of explosion, this kind of dynamic. Nothing happens once again for a very long time, and then all of a sudden everything happens. And the same kind of trend, the same kind of dynamic can be retrieved in a huge variety of fields and regarding technology or impacts of human activities. So we see here population, water use, pollution, number of cars. Everywhere we see the same kind of popcorn dynamic that leaves us very surprised. And in the past 20 years, 200 years, we also have experienced a massive improvement in the human condition. So As Gapminder suggests, Professor Ars Rosling has been mapping life expectancy and income per capita, and each bubble in this chart represents a country on the planet. The red big dot is China. And you see 1800, 90, 1950, 60, 70, and 1980, 90, 2000, 2010, and we have become a whole converging human species towards a future of prosperity and hopefully happiness. But this has been happening at cost. Already today, we are already consuming about 40% more than the Earth can produce. And this is due to the massive inefficiency of what we do. We have never really considered the planetary limits, the planetary boundaries in designing our activities. And so, if we think again about paradigms, probably this kind of picture is more accurate. The Earth's capacity is systematically declining, and the demand for resources is still systematically increasing at an accelerating pace. So we're going to crash into this funnel unless we completely redesign everything we do. We really have to reinvent our culture, our civilization, our activities. So, when thinking about this TED Talk, I said it would be interesting to provide a few reflection examples about the key technological trends that are exponential and that are going to impact our life in the next decade or so. But not just technological trends, all kinds of trends. And so I said it's impossible to keep track of everything which is going on. And so I said let's crowdsource this idea, this thought, this research. And I designed a very simple survey, and I asked to my Singularity University mailing list, could you please help me and indicate in just 1 minute the 3 trends which are going to impact us in the next decade. And in just about 30 hours, I got responses for 220 people, or more than that, because other came later. And 650 trends and hundreds of links, examples, and papers and research that should be absolutely analyzed in much deeper detail in the future. I hope this is going to be the basis of an interesting open source project. And one first reflection that emerged from this survey is that 10 years is a very long time horizon, because the most impacting trends in the 10th year may emerge in the 9th year. Here is the exponential playing out. And also what we are saying today may be completely revised in just a couple of years. So we see that, for example, dynamics like Facebook or the Arab Spring or the financial crisis that was completely out of the radar just in the summer of 2008. And one of the trends that emerged as a constant, probably the dominant trend among the survey, was that regarding energy. So we see here that in 2013 we will achieve a grid parity. This is just a very simple example of a revolution which is actually happening right now as we speak. And in San Diego, electricity from sun, from solar power, will be cheaper than fossil energy. And then we see in 2017 and 2022 and 2027. So just 10 years from now, in 2022, there will be about 100 million Americans which will find it cheaper to use electricity from the sun, from solar power, with respect to fossil energy, fossil electricity. And this means, very simply, complete redesign of our culture, of our economy, of our industrial system. What does it mean if we have hundreds of millions or billions of energy producers? It means rethinking our power systems as well. Think about what it means to recharge your car from the roof of your home, and having cars as energy storage systems, and so the base for for the smart grids. Another trend that emerged from this survey is that of biotechnology, and as many of you know, it took us about 15 years, and it cost about $3 billion to map the first human genome. And now we can do this with just a few thousand dollars in a few hours. And this is going to accelerate more and more as time goes by. And after reading genome, we can actually write genomes. But this is an entire new topic, synthetic biology. Well, there are places like this one in Walnut Creek in the Joint Genome Center where hundreds of machines map genomes 24/7, 365 days per year. And what do we do with this huge mass of data? Well, we can have nice pictures as this one. The bottom picture is actually the graphical representation of a genome, the DNA of some living being. And like in my case, we can use this data to improve your health. So this is my own genome, not a complete mapping, but a partial mapping. And this is a chart representing about 200 plus parameters. So my, let's say, building blocks, my reaction to medicines and drugs, what should I take, what should I not take because of my genome. And in just few years, this will be absolutely normal to go to your doctor with your complete genome mapping. This will be a commodity, it will be absolutely cheap. And your doctor will be able to design some kind of therapy which is absolutely tailor-made for your own specific genome and will be different from one person to the other in front of the same kind of problem to be treated. Another explosion, and maybe this is really the mother or the father of all exponential trend, is that of computation capacity, which has been growing systematically along an exponential curve in the last 60 years. We all know the Moore's law. And just by projecting this trend a few more years ahead, we see that by 2025, with $1,000, we'll be able to buy the computation capacity of a human brain. Well, what does it mean for our society? Also, in this case, it's a complete transformation. We will have a massive amount of computation capacity that will impact everything we do. And it's very hard to describe the magnitude of this in such a short time. One example, however, is that of Watson. Many people highlighted this IBM supercomputer that last year beat all human competitors at the quiz Jeopardy. And when machines start to meet with artificial intelligence, we have robots. So robotics is is for a large part out of the screen right now, out of the radar. But if we start to look into the capacity of machines to replace humans in a huge variety of works and tasks, we see that in just a few years or decades we will face radically different scenarios. Robots and artificial intelligence are going to massively replace humans, and as my friend Federico Pistono suggests, robots will steal your job, but that's okay. Well, it's okay if we are able to rethink, reconceive, and re-engineer the very concept of job, work, of employment. We have to really redesign our society, keeping in mind that a huge number of jobs that are let's say not related to creativity or things like that may be easily replaceable by machine, and it will be cheaper to have these jobs done by machines. So we have to completely revise our current discourse about jobs creation and employment, because these trends are going to massively impact our society not in the far future, also in the near future. I don't say this is right or wrong, but we'll have to come to terms with this. Another massive trend that will impact mostly production and consumption modes is that of three-dimensional printing. Many of you are familiar with the concept. Basically, we can print physical objects as we print something on a paper printer. And at the beginning, we were just a few years ago printing just simple plastic objects, and now we can do very sophisticated plastic, but also metal objects, and we are close to printing like electronic devices or engine motors and entire cars or houses, clothing, shoes. The research is exploding in this direction. And already today we are quite successful at printing organs. For now, just simple human organs, but in a few years we'll be able to print out also more complex organs and have spare parts for our bodies. Another sector, I wanted to bring this example because it's not just the high-tech, it's also traditional sectors like buildings and construction, like this one in China. You see the indicator in the yellow box, and you see the number 24, 51, and 78, and 2002 and 360. So you say, wow, it's great. They built this 30-story hotel turnkey project in 360 days. Actually, no, this is not days. 360 is the number of hours. So it took just 15 days to complete this project. And can you imagine what it means applying this kind of paradigm, this kind of approach in construction? Means redesigning what we know about buildings and construction. So we will not experience 100 years of progress in this century. It will be more like 20,000 years at today's rate. And going towards conclusions, I think that if we understand the potential of technology, if we understand the kind of challenges we are facing, we are going and we must redesign all our activities so that they contribute to systematically restore and regenerate the Earth's capacity. And we also reinvent everything we do, and we become radically more efficient in order to reduce our demands for resources so that we fit into the Earth's capacity. And I also think that this is going to be a change that will happen like following a path of least resistance. It will be, I don't say automatic or natural, but probably there is no other way to go for the future. And I think that there are some factors that will incredibly impact these opportunities to create a better future. For example, as Peter Diamandis suggests in his book Abundance, a kid in Africa or a girl in Sierra Leone can now have access to more knowledge, learning, information, and are more connected to the rest of the world than the United States president was just 15 years ago. So finally, I wanted to kind of summarize all this huge load of trends I've been receiving, and when thinking how to make meaning out of this, I started to color code them and to group together trends that had similar, let's say, pattern and similarities. And I got initially this kind of picture, and then as I was mapping and the color coding, I got something more and more similar to this one. And I said, well, this looks like something I've already seen. I saw this similarity between the mapping of the DNA and the mapping of the trends. And I thought, what is the key difference? Well, we are working on synthetic biology, but the DNA for the most part is given. Whether each pixel in the upper picture is the consequence of a choice. So the key difference is choice. And so I think if we understand the situation, the potential we have, we'll be able to make choices to really create a prosperous and abundant future for all of us. Thank you very much.